I used to think the people closest to you were supposed to have faces. You know, your family, your classmates, the people sitting next to you at lunch, the friends you grew up with. But if college taught me anything, it's that sometimes the person who understands you the most is just a blinking green dot on a screen. For 3 years, the person who knew my fears, my failures, my dumb jokes, and the parts of myself I never showed anyone was someone I had never met. I didn't know her real name. I didn't know what she looked like. I didn't know where she lived. Back then, I wasn't Rowan, and she wasn't Aria. We were just Rune and Lumi. Fall 2018, freshman year. Everyone tells you college is supposed to be the best time of your life. You move away from home, you reinvent yourself, you meet lifelong friends, you fall in love. At least, that's what the brochures promised. Reality was different. I spent most of my time either studying or pretending not to panic about the future. Computer science wasn't exactly forgiving. By midterms, half the students in my intro classes looked like they hadn't slept in days. I was doing well. Actually, I was doing better than well. I'd always been good at school, the kind of student teachers remembered, the kind parents liked to compare their kids to, the kind everyone assumed had everything figured out. They were wrong. I knew how to solve algorithms. I knew how to ace exams. I knew how to build things from scratch, but I had absolutely no idea how to be 18 years old. So every night, after lectures and assignments, I escaped into games, Discord, headphones, the version of life that made sense. One night, around 11:30, I joined a small gaming server I'd found through a classmate. There were maybe 15 people. Most of them already knew each other. I almost left. Then I saw a message. Lumi, is anyone actually good at this game? I stared at it, then typed, Rune, depends, how bad are you? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Lumi, wow, I ask for help and immediately get attacked. I smiled, the first genuine smile I'd had all week. Rune, that's not an answer. Lumi, fine, I once walked into a wall for 3 straight minutes. I laughed out loud. Rune, that's impressively terrible. Lumi, thank you. I work very hard at disappointing people. I didn't know it then, but that stupid exchange was the beginning of everything. We played for 2 hours that night, then 3 hours the next night. Then voice chat happened by accident. Wait, you have a mic? She asked. You sound surprised. You type like someone who owns 3 swords. What does that even mean? It means you sound less intimidating than I expected. I snorted. You thought I was intimidating? You corrected my strategy 3 times in 10 minutes. Fair. Then she laughed, and for some reason, the sound stayed with me. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't magical. It just sounded real, like someone who wasn't trying to impress anyone. There was one rule. Actually, several rules. No real names, no photos, no Instagram, no Facebook, no asking where the other person lived, no identifying details. Maybe it sounds strange, but in 2018, it wasn't. People warned you constantly. Don't trust strangers online. Don't reveal personal information. Don't tell people where you go to school. And honestly, there was something freeing about it. I didn't know whether I was rich or poor, popular or awkward, handsome or average. I didn't know if she was outgoing, quiet, pretty, or someone who never left her dorm room. All we had were words, and somehow that felt safer. A few weeks later, she asked, "Can I ask you something?" "Depends." "Why Rune?" I adjusted my headset. "It's from an old game." "That's it?" "Yeah." "You really suck at interesting answers." I smiled. "What about Lumi?" There was a pause. Then, "It means light." That's kind of poetic. My parents would be shocked to hear someone describe me as poetic. I laughed, then asked, "Are you?" "What?" "Poetic." Another pause. Then she said softly, "I don't know. I think I'm just trying to get through college without embarrassing myself." I leaned back in my chair. Same. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said, "You know?" "What?" I think everyone's pretending they know what they're doing. I stared at my screen, then replied quietly, yeah, I think you're right. Midterms came, then projects, then more projects. I barely slept. One night around 1 in the morning, I messaged, Rune, I think I'm going to fail. She replied almost instantly, Lumi, no struggle, no glory. I rolled my eyes. Rune, that's easy for you to say. Lumi, I'm crying over statistics homework. Seriously? I hate numbers. You sound dramatic. I am dramatic. Then another message appeared. Lumi, drink water. Lumi, eat something. Lumi, then go be brilliant. I stared at the screen. Nobody had checked on me like that in a long time. Not because they didn't care, but because everyone assumed I had it handled. I typed, Rune, thanks. Lumi, don't make it weird. I smiled. Too late, it already mattered. Weeks passed, then months. Discord became routine. Wake up, classes, study, homework, Rune, Lumi, good night. Over and over again. I didn't realize when talking to her stopped being part of my day. It became my favorite part of it. One night she asked, if you could quit college tomorrow and do anything, what would you do? I thought about it, then typed, I'd still choose this major. Seriously? Yeah. Why? I stared at the blinking cursor. Because it was expected of me. Because failure wasn't an option. Because excellence had always been easier than uncertainty. Instead, I typed, I like building things. She responded almost immediately. That's the most Rune answer ever. What's that supposed to mean? It means you don't dream about being famous. You dream about being youthful. I froze, then slowly typed, you think so? I know so. For some reason, that hit harder than compliments ever did. Because she wasn't praising what I achieved, she was seeing why. And somehow, she understood. At exactly midnight one evening, my headset buzzed. Happy birthday, Rune. I blinked, then frowned. I never told you my birthday. 3 dots appeared. You mentioned taking your SAT the day after your birthday once. I remembered. I stared at those words. She remembered. Something small. Something insignificant. Something I had forgotten saying. I smiled to myself. Then typed, thanks. You're welcome. Pause. No struggle, no glory. I laughed. That's a terrible birthday message. And yet you'll remember it forever. She wasn't wrong. Looking back now, I think that's when things changed. Not because I fell in love. Not yet. But because for the first time since college started, I stopped feeling alone. I still didn't know her name, I didn't know her face, I didn't know where she was. But every night, when the little green light beside Lumi's username appeared, I knew someone out there was happy I existed. And sometimes, when you're 18 years old and trying to figure out who you're supposed to become, that's enough to change everything. By sophomore year, talking to Lumi wasn't something I planned anymore. It just happened. Like brushing my teeth. Like checking my email. Like staring at the ceiling at 2 in the morning and wondering if everyone else secretly knew how adulthood worked except me. She became part of my routine. And somewhere along the way, I became part of hers. It usually started the same way. One of us would send the first message. Rune, you alive? Unfortunately. Dramatic. Accurate. And somehow, that would turn into 3 hours of conversation. We studied together through Discord. Or at least, we pretended to. I'd be debugging code. She'd be highlighting psychology articles she swore she'd read earlier. Every 20 minutes, one of us would sigh dramatically. Then, blame the education system. Then, continue working. You know what's unfair? She said one night. What? You computer science people suffer loudly. What does that mean? You all complain constantly. We're under pressure. So is everyone else. Yeah, but our suffering is more aesthetically pleasing. She laughed. That doesn't even make sense. It makes perfect sense. It really doesn't. I grinned. See, you sound happier already. Winter came. The campus emptied. People went home for the holidays. I stayed behind longer than I wanted to. Assignments, research opportunities, excuses. The truth was, I wasn't in a hurry to go back. Home wasn't bad. My parents loved me. They'd done everything right. But growing up in the Hale family meant expectations. Excellence wasn't demanded. It was assumed. Failure was terrifying because people wouldn't be angry. Failure was terrifying because I didn't know who I'd be without achievement. So I stayed busy, because busy felt safer. On Christmas Eve, my phone buzzed. Lumi. Merry Christmas. I smiled. Merry Christmas. There was a pause. Then another message. Lumi. Merry Christmas? Merry Christmas. There was a pause. Then another message. Lumi. Family dinner? Rune. Yeah. You? 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Lumi. Everyone's busy. I stared at the screen. I typed. Deleted it. Typed again. Rune. Do you want to talk? Lumi. Aren't you supposed to be celebrating? Rune. I can multitask. Another pause. Then my headset lit up. Voice call. I answered. For a while, neither of us said much. I could hear faint Christmas music somewhere in the background. I hate this holiday, she said quietly. You don't mean that. I don't hate Christmas. She hesitated. I hate feeling like everyone else belongs somewhere. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't good at comforting people. I like solutions. Instructions, fixins. Pain wasn't something you debugged. So I said the only honest thing I had. You don't have to be alone tonight. Silence. Then a soft laugh. You're really bad at this. I know. But thanks anyway. We stayed on that call for almost 3 hours. Mostly quiet, talking occasionally, listening to each other breathe through static. And somehow, that Christmas didn't feel so lonely anymore. A month later, around 2 in the morning, I was halfway through an assignment when Discord chimed. Lumi, are you awake? Rune, obviously. I can't sleep. I looked at the clock. Rune, bad dream? Just one of those nights. I leaned back in my chair. You don't have to talk. I know. You also don't have to pretend you're okay. Silence. Then, my parents had another fight. I sat up. For the next hour, she talked. About expectations, about feeling invisible, about being the responsible one, about pretending everything was fine because it was easier than admitting it wasn't. I listened. Eventually, she said, Sorry. For what? For dumping all this on you. I frowned. You're not dumping anything. You sure? Lumi. Yeah? You've listened to me complain about professors for 2 years. She laughed weakly. That's true. So I think we're even. Another silence. Then, you're a good person, Rune. I stared at my screen. Nobody had ever said that to me before. Smart? Sure. Disciplined? Sometimes. Reliable? Occasionally. But good? I wasn't sure. I still wasn't. Spring semester arrived. Then finals. Then summer. Time blurred. We talked through all of it. When I got my internship offer, she celebrated harder than I did. Lumi, I knew it. Rune, I wasn't even worried. You called me 3 nights ago having an existential crisis. And that never happened. You literally said, what if I end up unemployed and living under a bridge? I was being dramatic. You're stealing my personality. Impossible. She laughed, then said, "I'm proud of you." I blinked, then looked away from my monitor. My parents had always expected success. Professors rewarded it. Classmates noticed it. But pride, real pride, felt different. It felt personal. A few weeks later, I remembered something. At exactly midnight, I sent a message. Rune, happy birthday, Lumi. Nothing. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then, Lumi, I thought you forgot. I smiled. Rune, you remembered mine. Lumi, that's different. How? You matter. I stared at the words, then typed, Rune, so do you. 3 dots appeared, then stopped, then appeared again. Lumi, don't make me emotional. Too late. A minute passed, then, Lumi, no struggle, no glory. I laughed. Rune, that doesn't even fit this conversation. Lumi, it fits everything. Maybe she was right. Sometimes, I wonder when exactly friendship becomes love. Is it one moment, one realization, one grand gesture, or is it smaller than that? Is it remembering birthdays, checking if someone ate dinner, staying awake because they can't sleep, learning the sound of their sighs, the rhythm of their laughter, the difference between their real laugh and the fake one they use when they're pretending they're okay? Back then, I didn't think about love. I thought Lumi was my best friend. Nothing more, nothing less. I didn't know what she looked like. I didn't know her real name. I didn't know that somewhere, in another part of the same campus, there was a girl with kind eyes and a beautiful smile, living an entire life I knew nothing about. I only knew this. Every night, when this cord lit up and the green dot beside Lumi's name appeared, my day got a little better. And for someone who had spent most of his life believing achievement mattered more than connection, that realization was terrifying. Because for the first time in years, there was someone I couldn't imagine losing, even if I had never met her. By the beginning of sophomore year, I had developed a habit. Every time my phone buzzed with a Discord notification, I'd check it immediately. Didn't matter if I was in the library, didn't matter if I was halfway through debugging a disaster of a program, didn't matter if I was exhausted. If Lumi messaged, I answered. I never questioned it. I never asked myself why. Some things simply become part of your life so gradually that you don't notice them until someone points them out, or until something changes. It was a Thursday night. I remember because I had a programming assignment due the next morning. Discord lit up. Lumi. Lumi, can I ask you something? Rune. Depends. Lumi. Serious question. I straightened in my chair. That usually meant one of two things. Either she was having a terrible day, or she had spent 3 hours overthinking something small. Rune. Okay. The typing indicator appeared. Stopped. Appeared again. Then, Lumi. Have you ever dated anyone? I blinked. What? Lumi. Answer the question. I leaned back. No. Never? I spent most of high school studying. And college? I'm studying harder. A few seconds passed. Then, Lumi. That's honestly the most Rune answer possible. I smiled. What about you? The 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Lumi. I think someone likes me. I stared at the screen. For some reason, my chest tightened. I frowned. Probably because I wasn't expecting it. That had to be it. Nothing more. Rune? I realized she had switched to voice chat. You still there? Yeah. What do you think? I swallowed, then said the safest thing I could think of. If he's good to you, then maybe you should see where it goes. There was silence. Then, okay. A soft laugh. You know, what? I was kind of hoping you'd tell me what to do. I smiled weakly. You've never listened to my advice before. That's not true. You once asked if pineapple belonged on pizza, and you gave the wrong answer. It absolutely belongs on pizza. You make terrible life choices. I laughed, and just like that, the heaviness lifted, at least for a while. A week later, I finally learned his name, Logan. He's actually really nice. That's good. He's confident. Good. He's ambitious. Also good. He's funny. Okay, I get it. She laughed. Are you jealous? I nearly dropped my phone. What? I'm kidding. I forced a laugh. Good, because that would be ridiculous, right? Over the next few months, I heard more about Logan. The funny stories at first, the awkward first date, the expensive restaurant he'd insisted on paying for, the flowers, the compliments, the way he'd talk about his future. He says he'll own 3 companies by 30. Ambitious. He talks a lot. Some people do. He says networking is everything. Okay. He told people either become winners or excuses. I frowned. That's a weird thing to say. I know. But maybe he's just motivated. Maybe. Then the story started changing, subtly. At first, I didn't notice. Neither did she. We had dinner. Logan spent an hour talking about himself. Logan interrupted me 3 times. I don't think he even remembers what my major is. I adjusted my headset. What happened? He said psychology was easy. Ouch. I know. He probably didn't mean it. Maybe. But her voice sounded smaller than usual. Weeks passed, then months. The more she talked, the less Logan sounded like the person she described at the beginning. He exaggerates. What do you mean? He says things that aren't true. Like, he told people his uncle knew celebrities. Does he? No. He told people he invested in startups. Did he? He bought 2 shares of a company online. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Lumi groaned. Don't laugh. I'm sorry. No, you're not. No. For the first time in weeks, she laughed too. One night, her voice sounded tired. I think he likes the version of himself he tells people about. What do you mean? Silence. Then, he talks about the man he's going to become. The millionaire, the entrepreneur, the successful husband, the guy everyone admires. I listened. But he doesn't really ask who I am. I stared at my dark dorm room. He doesn't ask how my day was. He doesn't notice when I'm upset. He remembers compliments people gave him, but forgets things I've told him. Her voice cracked slightly. I don't think he listens. The room went quiet. Then I asked softly, how long have you been pretending you're okay with that? A long pause. Then, longer than I should have. I didn't know Logan. I had never met him. Maybe he wasn't a bad person. Maybe he genuinely cared. But the more Lumi spoke, the more one thought kept repeating in my head. You deserve better. I never said it, because who was I to decide that? I was just Rune, a voice through a headset, a stranger with no face, a friend. Nothing more, right? 6 months after that first conversation, Discord chimed at midnight. I answered immediately. Lumi? No response. Then finally, I broke up with him. I sat up. What happened? Her voice was quiet, almost numb. I couldn't do it anymore. He isn't a terrible person, he just... She struggled for the words. Loves potential more than reality. I waited. He loves who he wants to be, but he doesn't really see the people standing in front of him. I closed my eyes, then asked gently, Are you okay? A shaky laugh escaped her. No. For a moment, Neither of us spoke. Then I wasted 6 months. No, but I did. No. She was crying now. I ignored signs. I kept making excuses. I thought maybe if I waited, he'd eventually become the person he said he was. I tightened my grip on my headset. You weren't stupid. You were hopeful. Silence. Then a small broken sound. I don't know if that's better. I took a breath. I don't know either. The confession surprised both of us, because usually I had answers. I solved problems. I fixed things. But heartbreak wasn't code. You couldn't debug loneliness. You couldn't optimize grief. So I told her the truth. I don't know how to fix this. She let out a watery laugh. First time for everything. Yeah. I looked toward the window beside my desk. The campus outside was asleep. Then I said quietly, "But I can stay." What? I don't know how to fix it, but I don't want you crying alone. Silence. Then I heard her inhale sharply. Rune? Yeah? Thank you. We stayed on that call until sunrise, talking, crying, sitting in silence, remembering, existing, together. And somewhere around 5 in the morning, just before exhaustion finally pulled us under, Lumi whispered something so softly I almost missed it. You know, what? If there was someone like you in real life, she paused. I think I'd fall in love with him. My heart skipped, then immediately rationalized it away. She was emotional, heartbroken, tired. People said things they didn't mean when they were hurting, right? I forced a small laugh. Good thing I don't exist then. There was a pause. Then Lumi answered softly. Yeah, but something in her voice sounded disappointed. At the time, I didn't understand why. Looking back now, I think that was the first moment fate gave me a choice, and I was too blind to recognize it. For a while after Logan, things were different. Not worse, just quieter. Lumi still messaged me every day, but there were longer pauses now. Moments where I could tell she was thinking carefully before speaking, as if heartbreak had taught her that words mattered, as if she'd become afraid of misunderstanding her own heart. And honestly, I understood. Because even though Logan had only been part of her life for 6 months, he had taken something with him when he left. Trust. Not all of it, but enough to hurt. 3 weeks after the breakup, my phone buzzed. Lumi. Lumi, are you free? Rune. Depends. Lumi, how quickly can you abandon your responsibilities? I smiled. Rune, immediately. Her reply came almost instantly. Lumi, good. Lumi, I had a terrible day. We ended up in voice chat. You want to talk about it? I asked. Not really. Okay. Can you tell me about your day instead? I blinked. My day? Yeah. I wasn't interesting. I don't care. I went to class. My professor made fun of Java, as he should. I skipped lunch. Of course you did. I accidentally fell asleep in the library. You did what? It was only for 20 minutes. You slept in public? I was tired. Lumi laughed. A real laugh. The kind that came easily. The kind I hadn't heard since before Logan. You know what? She said. What? I think you might secretly be the funniest person I know. I scoffed. That's impossible. No. She sounded thoughtful. I think people probably assume you're serious all the time. They do. But you're actually just what? Kind of adorable. I nearly choked. Excuse me? She burst into laughter. Forget I said anything. I would love to. Too bad. And for the first time since her breakup, I heard her happiness again. Life settled back into routine. Classes, assignments, Discord, Lumi, repeat. Except now, something had changed. I noticed myself reaching for my phone before it buzzed, wondering if she'd eaten, if she'd slept, if she'd had a good day, if she was okay. And if several hours passed without hearing from her, I noticed that too, which was ridiculous. We weren't dating. I'd never even seen her face. I didn't know her real name. I didn't know whether she liked tea or coffee in the morning. Actually, I did know. Tea. Chamomile. Because coffee made her anxious. I knew she cried during animated movies, but pretended she didn't. I knew she hated horror films because jump scares felt cheap. I knew she always tucked her feet under herself when she studied, because she'd once casually mentioned it. I knew all of these things, and none of them should have mattered, except they did. One evening, Lumi asked, "Can I ask you something?" You ask me that a lot, because sometimes your answers surprise me. I leaned back in my chair. Okay. What's the nicest thing anyone's ever done for you? I opened my mouth, then stopped. My mind went blank. I thought about my parents, teachers, scholarships, gifts, recognition, awards, but none of those felt right. I don't know. You don't know? No. There was silence. Then Lumi said softly, "That's kind of sad." I laughed awkwardly. "It sounds worse than it is." "No." Her voice grew gentler. "It sounds like people have admired you, without really taking care of you." I stared at my screen. The little green circle beside her username glowed softly. I hesitated. I think most people assume I don't need help. Do you? What? Need help? I closed my eyes. Sometimes. Then maybe, she said quietly, you should let people care about you too. Something tightened painfully in my chest, because I didn't know how. Spring arrived. The campus transformed. Students spilled onto the lawns. Cherry blossoms bloomed near the old brick buildings. People fell in love in public, sat together on blankets, shared coffee between classes, laughed loudly in hallways, and somehow, without realizing it, I started noticing couples. Maybe because Lumi had dated Logan, maybe because part of me wondered what that felt like, or maybe because I was beginning to compare every version of affection I saw online to the one I'd found online. Then came the first day of my advanced software engineering elective. I arrived early, as usual. Third row from the back, window seat, laptop open, noise-canceling headphones around my neck. The professor hadn't arrived yet. Students filtered in one by one, talking, laughing, finding seats. I barely looked up until someone stopped beside me. Is this seat taken? I glanced upward and forgot what I was going to say. She was beautiful, not in the dramatic movie star way people talked about online, not intimidating, not artificial, just effortlessly beautiful. Long dark hair, warm brown eyes, a soft expression that made people relax around her. There was something gentle about her, something familiar. I pulled my headphones down. No. Thanks. She sat beside me, opened her notebook, then offered a small smile. I'm Aria. I hesitated. Rowan. Nice to meet you. You too. That was it. No lightning, no destiny, no grand music. Just two strangers sitting beside each other before class. Over the next few weeks, I learned a few things about Aria Quinn. Everyone liked her. Professors respected her. Students gravitated toward her. Not because she demanded attention, but because she noticed people. She held doors open by name, thanked cafeteria workers by name, helped classmates who struggled. One afternoon, I watched her kneel beside an elderly librarian gathering fallen books. Nobody else stopped. She did. Are you okay? She asked. The woman smiled gratefully. Thank you, dear. Aria shrugged it off as if kindness cost nothing. And for some reason, my chest tightened, because it reminded me of someone. Later that night, Discord lit up. Lumi, today an old lady dropped all her papers in front of me. I blinked. Lumi, I was late for class. Lumi, but I couldn't leave her there. A strange feeling settled over me. I typed back, Rune, sounds like something you do. Lumi, it sounds like something anyone should do. I stared at the message, then glanced toward my dorm window. The campus lights flickered in the distance. Coincidence. It had to be, right? A few days later, Arya dropped into the seat beside me before class. You look tired. I had an assignment. You always have assignments. Fair. She smiled. You should sleep more. I snorted. You sound like someone I know. She laughed softly. Then maybe you should listen. I looked at her properly for the first time. There was kindness in her eyes, patience, warmth. The same warmth I'd spent years hearing through a headset. I shook the thought away immediately. It was impossible. There were millions of people in the world, millions of Discord users, millions of girls who were kind. It meant nothing. It had to mean nothing. That night, Lumi messaged me. Lumi, Rune? Yeah? Do you ever think it's weird? What? How important people become. I stared at the screen. What do you mean? We meet strangers, and then suddenly, we can't imagine our lives without them. My fingers hovered above the keyboard. Finally, I typed. Yeah, I think about that sometimes. 3 dots appeared. Stopped. Appeared again. Then, Lumi. No struggle, no glory. I laughed softly. That doesn't fit this conversation either. It fits everything. I leaned back in my chair, smiling despite myself. Maybe she was right, because loving someone wasn't always dramatic. Sometimes it looked like remembering birthdays, listening through heartbreak, staying awake until sunrise, asking whether they'd eaten, noticing when they sounded tired, and maybe, just maybe, falling in love happened so slowly that by the time you recognized it, you were already standing in the middle of it. I just didn't know yet that the girl sitting 3 rows away from me in class and the girl waiting for my messages every night were the same person. And fate was getting tired of waiting for us to notice. There is a point in every mystery where coincidence stops feeling like coincidence. At first, you ignore it. Then you notice it. Then eventually, you can't stop thinking about it. That was exactly where I found myself. And the strange part, I didn't even realize I was solving a mystery. I thought I was just getting to know a classmate. By the middle of the semester, Arya and I became friends. Not close friends, not yet, but comfortable. The kind of friendship that grows naturally when 2 people spend enough time sitting beside each other. We worked on projects together, shared notes, complained about professors, argued about random topics, and somehow every conversation felt easy. One afternoon, our group project meeting ended early. Everyone left, except Arya. She stayed behind organizing her notes. I was packing my laptop when she suddenly asked, "Can I ask you something?" I laughed. That's becoming a dangerous sentence now. She smiled. "Do you always work this hard?" I shrugged. "I guess. You don't get tired?" "All the time." "Then why keep doing it?" The answer came automatically. Because that's what I've always done. Because excellence is expected. Because failure terrifies me. But instead I said, I like building things. Arya froze, just for a second, then looked down. "Oh." I frowned. "You okay?" "Yeah." She smiled, but there was something thoughtful in her eyes, something I didn't understand. That night, Discord lit up. Lumi, what would you do if you weren't afraid?" I stared at the screen. That wasn't a normal Lumi question. "Rune, afraid of what?" "Lumi, anything." I thought for a moment, then typed, "Rune, I'd probably take more risks. Like, talking to people." A few seconds passed. Then, "Lumi, that's funny. Why?" "I don't think you're as bad with people as you think you are." I smiled. If only she knew. Over the next few weeks, the coincidences started piling up. Small things, tiny things, the kind that shouldn't matter, but did. One day in class, Arya casually mentioned she hated horror movies. Jump scares are lazy. I nearly dropped my pen because Lumi had said almost the exact same thing, word for word. Another day, Arya brought chamomile tea. Not coffee, tea. The same tea Lumi always talked about. Another time, a classmate asked Arya what superpower she'd choose. Without hesitation, she answered, teleportation. Exactly the same answer Lumi had given during a random Discord conversation nearly a year ago. Coincidence, coincidence, coincidence. I repeated the words so many times that it started losing meaning. But while I was noticing Arya was noticing me too. And unlike me, she was putting the pieces together faster, much faster. One evening after class, Arya watched me helping another student debug a coding assignment. The student thanked me. I shrugged it off, as usual. Then I heard Arya laugh softly. What? She shook her head. Nothing. What? It's just... She smiled. You never realize when you're helping people, do you? I stared at her. That felt strangely familiar. That night, Discord. Lumi. You know something funny? What? I think you're kinder than you think you are. I froze. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. The exact same idea. The exact same day. For the first time, I felt something strange. Not suspicion, not yet, but curiosity. A few days later, our professor assigned a presentation. Group project, public speaking, my least favorite combination. I spent 3 days obsessing over it, rewriting slides, changing diagrams, fixing details nobody would ever notice. By the morning of the presentation, I looked exhausted. Arya noticed immediately. You okay? Fine. You don't look fine. I'll survive. She laughed, then said, you know, what? You think too much. I opened my mouth, then stopped, because that wasn't what she actually said. She almost said it, almost, but changed her mind, as if she'd caught herself. Presentation day arrived. The room was packed. Students, professor, teaching assistants, everyone. My anxiety quietly climbed higher and higher, not because I couldn't do it, because I wanted it perfect. Before we walked to the front of the room, Arya looked at me, really looked at me, then smiled. The same calm smile she'd used 100 times before, and said, no struggle. I froze. She continued, no glory. The world stopped, just for a second. No struggle, no glory. The phrase hit me like a truck. Not because it was impossible. Lots of people probably said that, right? Right? But then she laughed, the same way Lumi laughed. That same tiny pause before the laugh, that same warmth, that same rhythm. And suddenly, for the first time, a terrifying thought entered my head. What if... No, impossible. There were millions of people online. Millions. The odds were absurd, ridiculous, practically zero. And yet, as I stood there staring at Arya Quinn, while her words echoed in my head, I couldn't shake the feeling. The feeling that somehow, somewhere, I had heard that voice before. Not exactly, but close enough to make my heart race. That night, for the first time in 3 years, I opened Discord, looked at Lumi's username, and hesitated before typing, because one question kept repeating itself, over and over and over again. What if Arya is Lumi? What if the person I've been talking to every night has been sitting 3 rows away from me this entire time? And for the first time, I was afraid to find out the answer. For the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not because I believed Arya was Lumi, but because I couldn't prove she wasn't. And somehow, that was worse. Every coincidence I had ignored for months suddenly came rushing back. The tea, the jokes, the movie opinions, the way she listened, the way she remembered things. The phrase, "no struggle, no glory"? The logical part of my brain kept fighting back. You're being ridiculous. You're making connections that aren't there. You're projecting. You're overthinking. Unfortunately, Arya had spent months telling me I overthought everything, so even my self-criticism sounded suspicious. The next morning, I walked into class. Arya was already there, reading, highlighter in hand, completely normal, completely unaware that my brain had turned her into a conspiracy theory. Morning, she looked up, smiled. Morning, I sat down, opened my laptop, pretended to work, failed immediately. "Can I ask you something?" She looked amused. "That's becoming a dangerous sentence." I laughed nervously. "Yeah." Then I casually asked, "Tea or coffee?" Arya blinked. "That's your question?" "Maybe." She smiled. "Tea." My heart skipped. "Chamomile?" Her eyes widened slightly, just slightly. Then she nodded. "How did you know?" I looked away immediately. Lucky guess. Lie. That night, Discord lit up. Lumi. I stared at her username for almost 30 seconds before replying. Rune. Random question. Lumi. That's never a good sign. Rune. Tea or coffee? There was a pause. Then, Lumi. Seriously? Rune. Just answer. Lumi. Tea. Another message. Lumi. Chamomile. I leaned back in my chair. My pulse quickened. Coincidence. Still coincidence. Probably. The next test came 2 days later. Class ended early. A group of students started discussing movies. Someone asked Arya, "What's the most overrated genre?" Without hesitation, she answered, "Horror." A student laughed. "Why?" Arya shrugged. "Jump scares are lazy storytelling." My stomach dropped. That night, Discord opened. Rune. What's the most overrated movie genre? Lumi. Horror. I closed my eyes. Rune. Why? The typing indicator appeared. Lumi. Because jump scares are lazy storytelling. Exactly. Word for word. For the first time, I genuinely couldn't breathe. Meanwhile, something I didn't know was happening. Arya had started investigating too, because she had noticed things. A lot of things. The way I solved problems, the way I typed, the way I paused before answering personal questions, the way I laughed, the way I deflected compliments, the way I never talked about myself unless asked. And unlike me, Arya had one advantage. She was studying psychology. She paid attention for a living. One afternoon, our project group met in the library. Most people arrived late, leaving just the two of us. Arya sat across from me, watching me type, then suddenly asked, "Do you play games?" I nearly hit the wrong key. "Sometimes." She smiled. "Sometimes? I sighed. "Okay, a lot." She laughed. "What kind?" The exact game Rune and Lumi had spent nearly 3 years playing flashed through my head. I hesitated. Too long. Arya noticed. "That's a very suspicious pause." "Maybe." Then I named the game. Her eyes widened. Just for a second. Then she recovered. Too late. I saw it. And for the first time, I realized something. Arya was nervous too. Why? Unless... No. Impossible. Right? That evening, Discord opened. For almost a minute, neither of us sent the first message, which had never happened before. Finally, Lumi. Weird question. I laughed. Rune. Go ahead. Lumi. Have you ever wondered if we've met before? My heart stopped. Actually stopped. For one terrifying second, I stared at the screen. The cursor blinked. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then I typed. Rune. Sometimes. A pause. Then, Lumi. Me too. Nothing else. Just that. Me too. And somehow, Those two words felt more intimate than every conversation we'd had in 3 years. Because for the first time, neither of us was hiding behind curiosity. We were admitting hope. Hope that the person on the other side of the screen might already be part of our lives. A few days later, the moment happened. The moment that destroyed any chance of pretending. Our professor assigned individual presentations. Everyone hated it, especially me. I had spent 4 nights preparing. 4. Which meant I had spent 4 nights panicking. When Arya found me sitting alone before class, she immediately noticed. "You look stressed." "I'm fine." "No," she smiled. "You're spiraling." "I am not." "You absolutely are." I opened my mouth to argue. Then she laughed. Softly, warmly, the exact same laugh I had heard through a headset hundreds of times. Then she leaned slightly closer and said quietly, "Rowan?" "Yeah?" No struggle. My entire body froze. No glory. The classroom disappeared. The noise disappeared. Everything disappeared. Because this time, it wasn't the phrase. It was the way she said it. The exact rhythm, the exact tone, the exact smile. The same one I had heard on birthdays, on Christmas, during finals, after heartbreak, at 2 in the morning, for 3 years. I looked into her eyes, and suddenly, I wasn't looking at Arya Quinn anymore. I was looking at Lumi. Or at least, I thought I was. And judging by the look on her face, she was thinking the exact same thing. I didn't hear a word of that presentation. Not mine, not anyone else's, not even the professor's feedback. Because my brain was stuck replaying one thing, over and over and over again. No struggle, no glory. Not the phrase, the voice, the rhythm, the smile, the timing. Arya. Lumi. Arya. Lumi. For the first time in 3 years, the impossible actually felt possible, and that terrified me. Because if I was wrong, I'd look insane. But if I was right, everything would change. After class ended, I packed my laptop slowly, too slowly. Arya was doing the exact same thing. Neither of us leaving, neither of us speaking. Finally, she looked up. "Hey. Hey." Silence. Then, "Can we talk?" My heart immediately sped up. "Yeah?" She smiled nervously. And somehow, seeing Arya Quinn nervous felt stranger than anything else that day. "There's a cafe off campus." "I know it." "Would you maybe," she hesitated, "wanna walk there?" I nodded. "Okay." Neither of us mentioned why. Neither of us needed to, because we both knew. The walk took 15 minutes, and it was probably the longest 15 minutes of my life. The sun was beginning to set. Students passed us, laughing, talking, living normal lives, while my entire reality was hanging by a thread. Every few steps, I almost asked. Every few steps, I stopped myself. What if I'm wrong? What if she's not Lumi? What if I ruin everything? Then I looked at Arya and saw she was fighting the exact same battle. When we reached the cafe, we chose a table near the window. Quiet, private. Neither of us touched our drinks. Neither of us knew where to begin. Finally, Arya laughed softly. "I think we're both trying to ask the same question." I smiled. "Probably." She looked down, then back up. And for the first time since I'd met her, she looked genuinely scared. "Can I tell you something weird?" "Sure." "I've had a feeling for months." I froze. "Months?" She nodded. "Little things. The way you talk, the way you solve problems, the way you avoid compliments." I couldn't help smiling. "That's very specific." "I study psychology." "Right." She laughed. Then her expression softened. And every time I noticed something, I told myself I was being ridiculous. My heart started pounding. because that was exactly what I'd been doing, every day, for weeks. Then Arya took a breath, a deep one. The kind people take before jumping. Rowan? Yeah? Do you remember your first message to me? My brain stopped, completely stopped. Not Arya, Lumi. Only Lumi would ask that. Slowly, I answered. Depends. A tiny smile appeared on her lips. Then she continued. How bad are you? I stared at her. The cafe disappeared. The noise disappeared. Everything disappeared. Because those weren't random words. They were our words. The first conversation. 3 years ago. The beginning. My throat suddenly felt dry. There was only one thing left to say. Wow. Arya immediately laughed. The same laugh. The exact same laugh. And suddenly, for the first time, I wasn't hearing Lumi through headphones. I was hearing her, right here, right in front of me. And somehow, that felt even more unreal. Rune? Her voice cracked slightly, just enough to reveal how emotional she was trying not to be. I swallowed. Lumi? The second the words left my mouth, her eyes filled with tears. Not dramatic tears, not movie tears, the kind you appear when you've been holding something for too long. For 3 years. 3 years. Thousands of messages, hundreds of calls, birthdays, Christmas, final exams, heartbreak, late night conversations, and somehow the person had been sitting a few rows away all along. Arya laughed through her tears. Oh my God. I laughed too, because there was nothing else to do. Nothing in my life had prepared me for this. Nothing. Then she covered her face and shook her head. I can't believe this. I can't believe it either. No, she pointed at me. You have any idea how many times I almost asked? I laughed. You? Yes, I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was losing mine. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Not as Rowan and Arya, not as classmates, not as project partners, but as Rune and Lumi, the two people who had accidentally become part of each other's lives. And suddenly, everything made sense. The tea, the jokes, the kindness, the familiarity, the comfort, all of it. Then Arya smiled, a real smile. The kind I'd never actually seen before, only imagined, and softly said, Hi, Rune. I smiled back. For the first time in years, feeling like I'd finally arrived somewhere. Hi, Lumi. And somehow, those two simple words felt like coming home. The strangest thing wasn't discovering that Arya was Lumi. The strangest thing was realizing how little changed afterward, and how much changed at the same time. The next morning, I still woke up, still went to class, still drank terrible campus coffee, still sat in the same seat. But now, when Arya walked into the room, I didn't just see Arya Quinn. I saw every late night conversation we'd ever had. Every birthday, every Christmas, every bad day, every good day. And somehow, she looked familiar in an entirely new way. She dropped into the seat beside me, smiling. Morning. I looked at her, really looked at her, and laughed. What? I still can't believe it's you. Arya immediately laughed too. I know. Then she leaned forward. Honestly? What? I thought you'd be taller. I stared at her. You've known me for 3 years. Exactly. So? I built an imaginary version of you. I groaned. Great. She smiled. The real version is better. My heart did something deeply unhelpful. And class hadn't even started yet. Over the next few weeks, everything became an adventure. Not because we were doing exciting things, because ordinary things suddenly had history attached to them. One afternoon, we were walking across campus. Arya pointed toward a bench. I cried there once. I looked over. What? The Logan breakup. Oh. She nodded. That night when I called you. I stopped walking. The memory immediately came back. The tears, the silence, the sunrise. And suddenly, that story wasn't happening somewhere far away anymore. It happened right here, 10 minutes from where I stood. For the first time, I understood how close we'd always been, closer than either of us realized. Another day, I took her to my favorite study spot, a hidden corner of the engineering building. Almost nobody knew it existed. Arya looked around, then burst out laughing. What? She pulled out her phone, opened Discord, scrolled, then showed me a message from nearly 2 years ago. Lumi, I found the best study spot on campus. I stared, then looked around, then back at the message. No way. She nodded. No way. We had been using the same place for years, missing each other by days, sometimes hours, and somehow never meeting. It felt impossible, yet somehow that seemed to happen a lot around us. One evening, we sat beside the lake near campus. The sunset reflected across the water. Students walked past, couples laughed nearby, and for once, neither of us touched our phones. No Discord, no screens, just us. Arya skipped a small stone across the surface, then smiled. Can I tell you something embarrassing? Always. She laughed. There were times I almost sent you my picture. I blinked. Really? She nodded. Especially after Logan. My chest tightened. Why didn't you? She thought for a moment, then answered honestly, because if you disappeared afterward, her voice softened, it would have hurt more. The answer hit harder than I expected, because I understood immediately. I had felt the same thing for years. The fear that changing something might break something, and what we had was too valuable to risk. The wind moved gently across the lake. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Arya smiled. You know what's funny? What? You were there for almost every important moment of my college life. I looked at her. She continued. The panic attacks, the breakup, the scholarship interviews, the family problems, the days I wanted to quit. Her smile softened. You were there. My throat suddenly felt tight, because the same thing was true. She had been there through everything. The pressure, the expectations, the failures, the loneliness, all of it. Before I could stop myself, I said quietly, so were you. The smile she gave me after that was probably one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. Not because she was beautiful, although she absolutely was. It was beautiful because it was real. No filters, no masks, no usernames. Just Arya, the person I'd known all along. The semester continued, and something new began happening. People started noticing us. Classmates, friends, professors, everywhere we went. Together. One afternoon, our professor stopped us after class, looked at Arya, then at me, and smiled knowingly. Finally. I frowned. Finally what? The professor laughed, then walked away, leaving Arya laughing beside me. What's so funny? She shook her head. Nothing. But she looked suspiciously pleased. Very suspiciously pleased. A few weeks later, midterms ended. Stress disappeared for about 6 hours, and Arya made a suggestion. We should celebrate. I looked up from my laptop. Celebrate what? Surviving. That's dramatic. It's college. Fair. So, what are we doing? Her eyes sparkled mischievously, And suddenly, I had the feeling my life was about to become much more complicated, for reasons that had absolutely nothing to do with Discord. People always talk about falling in love. They talk about butterflies, about attraction, about first dates, about sparks. Nobody talks about the moment you realize someone has become important enough to hurt you. That part is quieter and much more terrifying. For me, it started with a simple question. One Friday evening, Arya and I were walking back from dinner. Nothing fancy, just burgers, bad fries, and an argument about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. Somehow, 3 years later, we still hadn't settled that debate. The campus lights glowed softly around us. Students laughed in the distance, music drifted from a nearby dorm. Everything felt normal. Until Arya said, "Can I tell you something?" I smiled. "That's still a dangerous sentence." She laughed. "I got accepted." I blinked. "Accepted?" She nodded. "Graduate school." My smile immediately widened. "Arya!" I pulled her into a hug before I even thought about it. For a second, she froze, then hugged me back, tightly. The realization hit me a second later. I had never hugged her before. Not really. And suddenly, letting go felt surprisingly difficult. When we finally stepped apart, both of us looked slightly embarrassed, but happy. Very happy. "You did it," she smiled. "We did it." My chest tightened, because somehow that felt even better. Then she said the next sentence, the sentence that changed everything. "It's in Boston." The world stopped. Just slightly, but enough. Boston. Thousands of miles away. Different city, different life, different future. And for the first time, a thought entered my head. What if she leaves? Not someday, soon. The realization hit harder than it should have, much harder. Because friends move away all the time, right? People graduate, people relocate, people grow up. That's life. So why did the idea feel unbearable? That night, Discord opened. For the first time in months, neither of us typed much, because neither of us needed to. The question was already sitting there between us, unspoken. Boston. A week later, I started noticing things. Little things. The way she laughed. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she concentrated. The way she smiled at strangers. The way she always remembered birthdays. The way she quietly took care of people. Things I should have noticed long ago. Things that suddenly felt precious. Dangerously precious. And every time I thought about Boston, those details felt sharper, more important, as if my brain had finally realized they weren't guaranteed. One afternoon, I found myself sitting alone in the library, the same library where we'd spent countless hours studying. Arya wasn't there. She had another class. Nothing unusual. And yet, I kept looking toward the door, expecting her to walk in. When she finally did, 40 minutes later, I actually felt relieved. Relieved, like an idiot. That was the moment I knew. Not officially, not logically, but emotionally. I knew. This wasn't friendship anymore. Not entirely. Maybe it hadn't been for a long time. I just hadn't wanted to admit it. That evening, I called my older brother. One of the few people who knew anything about my personal life, which wasn't saying much. After listening to me ramble for 10 minutes, he interrupted. "Let me get this straight. Okay, you're talking about the same girl. Yes. The Discord girl. Yes. The college girl. Yes. The one you spend most of your free time with. Yes. The one you think about constantly." I sighed. "Probably. The one moving to Boston." "Yes." A pause. Then, "You know you're in love with her, right?" Silence. Complete silence. Because hearing it out loud felt different. Real. Dangerously real. My brother laughed. "Oh, wow. What? You genuinely didn't know?" I knew. "No," he laughed harder. "You suspected. That's not the same thing." And unfortunately, he was right. For years, I had hidden behind logic, behind friendship, behind usernames, behind coincidence. But now there was nowhere left to hide, because every future I imagined included Arya, and every future without her felt wrong. A few days later, Arya and I sat beside the lake again, the same place where we'd spent countless evenings talking. The sunset reflected across the water. The air felt cooler now, autumn approaching, time moving forward, whether we wanted it to or not. Arya stared at the horizon, then quietly said, "Are you scared?" I looked at her. "About Boston?" She nodded. For a moment, I considered lying, then remembered who I was talking to, the girl who knew me better than anyone, the girl who had heard every version of my voice, the girl who could always tell. So, instead, I told the truth. "Yeah." She smiled sadly. "Me too." The silence that followed felt different, not uncomfortable, just honest. For once, neither of us was pretending. Neither of us was pretending this was easy. Neither of us was pretending we weren't afraid. And for the first time, I started wondering if maybe, just maybe, she was afraid of losing me too. As the sun disappeared behind the trees, Arya softly whispered, "No struggle." I looked at her. She smiled. "No glory." And somehow, for the first time, those words didn't sound like motivation. They sounded like courage. The courage to hold on to something worth losing. The last month of college arrived faster than either of us expected. One moment, we were freshmen hiding behind usernames. The next, graduation was only weeks away. Campus felt different. Everyone could feel it. The endings, the goodbyes, the uncertainty, the future waiting just beyond the horizon. And every day, Boston felt closer. I hated that. Not because I wasn't proud of Arya. I was. More than proud. She deserved every opportunity she'd earned, every scholarship, every acceptance letter, every success. But every step forward also meant one thing. She was leaving. And I still hadn't told her how I felt. Not really. Because part of me was terrified. Terrified that saying it out loud would change everything. Terrified that I'd somehow lose the best thing that had ever happened to me. The irony wasn't lost on me. 3 years hiding behind a screen. 3 years telling each other everything. And somehow, this was the one thing I couldn't say. A week before graduation, Arya sent a message. Not on Discord. A text. "Meet me at the observatory tonight." I frowned. The observatory sat on a hill overlooking the entire campus. A beautiful place, but usually empty. Why? Her reply came instantly. "Trust me." That should have worried me. Instead, it made me smile. Because if there was one person I'd learned to trust, it was her. The sun had already set when I arrived. The observatory lights glowed softly against the dark sky. A warm breeze moved through the trees. The entire campus stretched below like a sea of lights. For a moment, I didn't see anyone. Then I heard her voice. "You're late." I turned and completely forgot how to breathe. Arya stood beneath a string of warm golden lights, wearing a simple white dress. Nothing extravagant, nothing flashy, but somehow more beautiful than anything I had ever seen. Because it was her. Because after 3 years, I finally knew who she was. And somehow, that made everything more beautiful. She smiled nervously, which immediately made me nervous. "Okay," I laughed. "What is this?" Arya looked away, then back at me. And for the first time, I realized her hands were shaking. Actually shaking. That scared me, because Arya Quinn never seemed afraid. Until now. "Arya?" She took a deep breath. Then another. And another. Finally, she laughed. A nervous laugh. I had a speech prepared. I smiled. "Of course you did. I spent 3 days writing it." "That sounds like you." I forgot half of it. That made me laugh. And somehow, the sound seemed to calm her. A little. She stepped closer, then looked directly into my eyes. And suddenly, everything became quiet. The wind, the city, the world. Everything. "Do you remember Christmas?" I blinked. "Which one?" "The one where I told you I hated Christmas." My heart tightened. Of course I remembered. I remember. She nodded. You stayed on that call for 3 hours. I smiled. You sounded lonely. I was. Her voice softened. Do you remember the night Logan and I broke up? I nodded. You stayed until sunrise. Because you needed someone. A tiny smile appeared. Then she took another step forward. Do you remember my scholarship interview? Yes. My panic attack? Yes. My birthday? Yes. Every answer came instantly, because every memory included her, and always would. Tears began filling her eyes. Not sad tears, the kind people cry when their hearts become too full. Then she whispered, You were there. I swallowed. Arya. She shook her head. No. For the first time all night, she didn't let me interrupt, because this was something she'd carried for years, and tonight she was finally letting it go. You were there when nobody else was. Her voice trembled. When I was scared, when I was lonely, when I felt broken, when I didn't believe in myself. A tear slipped down her cheek, and somehow it made her even more beautiful, because it was real. Everything about her was real. Then she smiled softly through her tears. You know what's funny? What? I spent years wondering if I'd ever meet someone like Rune. My breath caught. She continued. And then I found out he was sitting 3 rows away. I laughed. She laughed too. Then finally the words came. The words she'd been carrying all this time. Rowan Hale. For a moment, her voice shook, then steadied, and under a sky full of stars, with the campus glowing below us, and 3 years of memories standing between us, she said, I love you. Silence. The entire world seemed to stop. I think I've loved you for a very long time. A tear rolled down her cheek. She smiled, but I didn't know what to call it. Friendship. Comfort. Home. Her smile widened. Turns out, it was love. I couldn't speak. Not immediately, because for years I'd imagined 1,000 versions of this moment, and none of them came close. Finally, I stepped forward. Just one step, then another, until there was almost no distance left between us, and quietly said, I love you too. The second the words left my mouth, she laughed and cried at the same time, which somehow felt very Arya. Then she wrapped her arms around me, and for the first time, I held the person who'd been changing my life for 3 years. Not Lumi, not Arya, both. The same person. The person I never wanted to lose. Far below us, the campus lights continued shining brightly, as if celebrating with us. And somewhere in the distance, a graduation ceremony waited. A new future waited. Boston waited. Life waited. But for one perfect moment, none of that mattered. Because after 3 years, we had finally found each other.